Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and welcome back to another true crime video, or if you're new here, welcome. Today we are going to be discussing the unthinkable case of Zaydian Dopirak. He was just a newborn baby when he was taken away from his violent, temperamental father. But due to a series of questionable decisions made by one single individual, despite numerous warnings that Zaydian's life was in great danger with this man, he was returned to his father's care. And before long, this man proved everyone right in the most horrendous, brutal way. This case has so many layers, so many unanswered questions, and I hope that by covering this case, we can spark a conversation and spread the news about what happened to Zaydian so that hopefully some of those questions can be answered. Zaydian Dopirak was born to Kirsten and Blake Dopirak in St. Louis, Missouri. However, in 2018, when Zaydian was just 5 weeks old, he was taken to the hospital after sustaining life-threatening head trauma. It was quickly determined that his injury was non-accidental. It was abuse. It was said that his father, Blake, crushed his skull with his bare hands, causing such severe brain damage that doctors felt that Zaydian would never grow up to walk. After this incident, Zaydian was taken away from his biological family and placed into the care of foster parents Dawn and Jeff James. Once under their care, Zaydian absolutely thrived. He grew into an outgoing, energetic, and smart little boy. He absolutely loved his therapy dog and was obsessed with the Cardinals baseball team. Not only that, but he learned to walk. He was excelling in everything doctors told the family he would never do.
He overcame a lot of obstacles that they said that he would not overcome.
Jeff and Dawn James took Zaydian in when he was just 4 months old.
A non-accidental traumatic brain injury at 5 weeks old. That's what put him in the foster care system. From what we were told, he was held and his skull was crushed by hand.
We were told, due to the initial brain injury, that he would never walk.
He not only walked, he thrived. He loved his dog and was glued to Cardinal baseball.
He was excelling in everything that they said he would never do.
After being placed with the James family, they petitioned for full legal guardianship over Zaydian. They loved him as if he were their own, and he was living a full, happy, and healthy life. Based on what I've been able to find through Kirsten's Facebook page, it does appear that she and Blake were able to visit Zaydian and watch him grow up, but he obviously stayed under the care of the Jameses. They knew that if Zaydian ever returned to his father's care, his life would be in danger. The Jameses worked with social services, Zaydian's pediatrician, and other representatives from the court to make sure that Zaydian would remain with them. Seeing how well Zaydian was doing with his foster family, Dawn and Jeff never felt that the courts would disagree that they were what was best for him. After all, he was taken away from his parents when he was a newborn baby. These were the parents that Zaydian knew. This is the life that he was accustomed to. There was really no point into uprooting his life. But after about 4 years under their care, Blake and Kirsten filed with the court to regain custody of Zaydian. They wanted to take him away from the home and the life he knew and wanted to try to be his parents again. Of course, Jeff and Dawn absolutely did not want to give Zaydian back to Blake and Kirsten. They told the judge presiding over the case that Zaydian's life is at risk if they were to return to his biological parents. Zaydian's social workers, his guardian ad litem, who is a court-appointed representative to advocate for a child's rights, as well as his doctor, all testified that it was too dangerous to return Zaydian to Blake. Yet, despite the fact that Zaydian literally almost died of a head injury caused by his father, despite all these professionals testifying, despite the people who raised him all saying that Zaydian's life was in danger with Blake, the judge sided with the Dopiraks. Commissioner Diane Monahan determined that they were going to be doing a trial reunification. Basically, that means that his biological parents aren't getting custody of him right away. The Jameses still have custody, but they are going to send Zayden to live with Blake and Kirsten while doing check-ins to see how the little boy is doing. It's supposed to be a safe way to determine if a child is going to be okay living with his parents again. Now, a question I have about this that I haven't been able to find anywhere is whether or not his parents were given unsupervised visitation, how often, and how many hours at a time they got to be with him. Because if it was supervised visitations, or if it was only during the day, or if it was only for, every other weekend, for 5 hours a day or whatever it might be, going from that to all of a sudden just living with his parents is such a far jump. I have no idea what the original arrangement was, but it still seems like such a big jump. They could have had him just stay with them for a weekend or every weekend, or some way to get him to stay overnight, be in their care for 24 hours, see how they were doing while safely returning him to his foster parents. But that's not what was decided. By January of 2022, 4-year-old Zayden was sent to live with Blake and Kirsten. The hope was that his biological parents learned how to care for their son in the years after he was taken from them, that they've done the work on themselves to be better people for the sake of their child. But as we could have expected, when someone is evil enough, sick enough to crush the skull of their own infant son, they probably haven't changed much in the years that followed. Just weeks after little Zayden returned to his biological parents by 8 a.m. on January 2nd, 2022, the St. Louis Police Department received a call from Blake Dopirak, who reported that his 4-year-old son was unresponsive. He told the dispatcher that his son suddenly stopped breathing for unknown reasons and needed help immediately. Upon arriving to the scene, first responders began life-saving measures before transporting him to the hospital for treatment. At the hospital, it was found that Zayden had suffered from multiple head injuries, including multiple hematomas and retinal hemorrhaging. At the time, he was placed on life support while doctors continued their desperate efforts to save the little boy's life. As Zayden remained in the hospital, officers brought his father, Blake, down to the station for an interview. According to officers, Blake appeared relatively calm and cooperative, but had periodic moments of being upset about Zayden's hospitalization. In that interview, he confirmed that he was the only one at home at the time of Zayden's collapse, but maintained that he had no idea what caused it. He told the officers everything that happened that day, but as far as I can tell, that specific information has not been made public. All we know was that Zayden was at home with his father when he sustained multiple head injuries, most likely caused by some sort of beating or shaking, which then caused him to collapse. At the end of this interview, Blake was released as police continued their investigation. But then, tragically, just one day after Zayden's admittance to the hospital, despite the exhaustive efforts by medical staff, 4-year-old little Zayden died as a result of his injuries. After his death, of course, his body was sent to the medical examiner for an autopsy, and there, it was determined that he died as a result of multiple non-accidental blunt force injuries to his head. His cause of death was ruled a homicide.
The James petitioned for guardianship, and after 4 years, they never thought a judge would disagree.
Everybody was on the same page. If this child was returned, something would happen to this child again.
From state social workers to a pediatrician, James says everyone testified it was too dangerous to send Zayden back home.
When you have so many people telling you that if this child is returned home, he will be killed, you need to listen to that. We were shocked when the judge said she was going to do a trial reunification.
They were due back in court January 5th to see how reunification went. Zayden died 2 days before that, after being diagnosed with multiple head injuries.
I begged to be able to give this boy a life that he deserved.
Love you.
Why? When you had so many people, was he just a number? Was he just a case number for you?
Then, of course, because Blake himself admitted that he was the only one at home when Zayden sustained his life-threatening injuries, he was arrested and charged with Zayden's death. This 23-year-old man crushed the skull of his infant son and for some reason wasn't arrested and doesn't seem to have spent any time in jail. He just got to live his life, spend time with his son until the courts decided that he should get another chance. He couldn't even control his own actions enough to be on his best behavior for a few weeks after having Zayden move in with him. He couldn't even pretend to care about his son for more than a few days before he beat his son to death. And now, because of this absolutely nonsensical decision made by the courts after ignoring the warnings from those who actually loved and cared about Zayden, he's dead. After Blake was charged with Zayden's death, he failed to make bail, so he sat in jail as he awaited trial, although I have no idea why he was given bail to begin with, but that's besides the point. Then, for the 3 years that followed little Zayden's death, the prosecution worked to build their case, hoping to nail down a conviction. But then, by June of 2025, Blake ended up working with the prosecution for a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to a charge of endangering the welfare of a child and causing death. As a result of the plea, Blake has been sentenced to just 24 years behind bars. He is 23 years old right now, so that means that he will be in his late 40s when he is released, which to me isn't nearly enough time.
It was emotional in that courtroom beyond words. I sat right behind the Foster family in court, where a prosecutor's office therapy dog sat nearby. As soon as the judge began her proceedings, you could hear weeping.
Love you. Love you.
This is who it's about, Zaydian Dopirak. He died when he was 4 years old back in January 2022. Zayden should still be alive, according to the James family, who'd fostered the child for years.
We should have never been here if the courts would have originally listened.
After reunification, Zayden died from a reported head injury, and the St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office charged his father, Blake Dopirak, in connection. That family court commissioner retired shortly after our report.
When Commissioner Monahan stepped down and we knew that no family would be put through this again, that did restore our faith.
Then the criminal charge resulted in a plea deal for Blake Dopirak, in which he was sentenced Thursday to 24 years in prison for endangering the welfare of a child, resulting in death. St. Louis County Prosecutor Melissa Smith said, quote, "Justice has been served. We are relieved for this family that this painful chapter is over and they can continue on their path to healing. May this angel rest in peace."
I know that Zayden can never be brought back, but my family got justice for him today. Knowing that he's going to go away, I have a little bit of peace.
But after the plea deal and sentencing, Zayden's foster family said that they are happy that justice has been served. Dawn went on to say that nothing can obviously bring Zayden back, but knowing that justice has been served for their little boy does bring them a little bit of peace. They also mentioned that Diane Monahan, one of the individuals responsible for placing Zayden back with his parents, has stepped down from her role. That also gives the Jameses some peace and hope, knowing that she won't be responsible for making these kinds of decisions ever again. At this point, unfortunately, that's pretty much all the information we have on this case. I know this is a much shorter case than what I normally cover, but when I stumbled across this little boy's story, I felt compelled to cover it. After learning all the information I've discussed with you, I'm left with so many questions. First of all, I noticed on Kirsten's Facebook page that she and Blake were together throughout all of this. This man crushed their baby's skull, yet she stayed with him for all those years. That will never make sense to me, and as far as I can tell, she hasn't spoken to the media or made any sort of statements about the situation. She seems to have stayed completely silent. That being said, I hope more details are released for why the judge made this nonsensical decision and why Blake seemingly wasn't punished at all for his original crime. The way I see it, it's like if you go to the store and you see some random person and you hit them so hard that you crack their skull, you will end up in prison. But for some reason, it seems like with so many cases like this one, when someone does the exact same thing to their child, someone far more vulnerable and far more helpless, the only punishment they receive is having the child taken away from them temporarily. I don't understand that at all. There's literally no punishment for them. I don't understand how any judge can see someone who crushed their own infant child's skull, hear the warnings from so many trusted individuals, and still send that child to the home to live with them. Did Blake get any sort of therapy after the initial incident? Did he do anything to prove his fitness to be a parent? How did the judge think that they were better fit for Zayden when all he knew were Dawn and Jeff? I want to know so much more about what happened that day, what Blake says about what he did, and what Kirsten has to say. How much of this did she know about? Did she truly think that Blake changed, or did she accept Zayden back into her home, knowing that Blake is prone to being abusive? These are all questions that I'm not sure we're ever going to get answers for. But even with such limited information, I want to ask them. Because we continue to see cases like this one where a child is placed with people who have proven themselves to be dangerous. I can't wrap my head around why reunification is the top priority, even above the child's safety and welfare. I wish these judges had to be held accountable for their decisions, or at least had to explain themselves when these things happen. Because if accountability isn't taken, if no one ever has to answer for cases like this one, they will continue to happen. Zayden deserved so much better. He should have stayed in the home where he thrived. He never should have been forced to return to his abuser. But here we are, hearing about another dead child because of the inexplainable decision of someone who ignored the red flags and warning signs that were right in front of them. And I, for one, I'm sick of it. But that is where I'm going to end today's video, and now I want to hear what you all think. How and why do you think this was allowed to happen? What do you think truly happened to Zayden? Do you think that Blake got a long enough sentence? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell on. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which is listed down below. With that, hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.